Let's rock and roll. This is the AP Sports Pod. Thank you for watching here on YouTube on our Nexus Sports channel. These are my Circa Million picks for Week 5. But before I do that, let's recap Week 4. Game number 1, that was Money in the Bank. Jacksonville versus Atlanta. Desperation mode for Jacksonville. Must win for Jacksonville. Easy cover. Atlanta, I guess that trend, the Atlanta road trend or the Desmond Ridder road trend is a real thing because they looked awful against Detroit and they looked awful in London against Jacksonville. So that was easy. Doesn't happen very often or hasn't happened very often this year. Just a nice relaxing cover. Miami at Buffalo. Yeah, not good. Took Miami. I had Miami rated as maybe the best team in the NFL. Buffalo certainly very good. Those have flip-flopped. I think Buffalo dominated, although I heard somebody had that game, some type of analysis had that game close rather than Buffalo winning by 28. But tip the cap. Buffalo took care of business. I was on Miami, the wrong side. And that was that. You take the beating, move on. Game number 3, Houston versus Pittsburgh. Houston getting 2.5 points. When I did my analysis, and I started doing this, you'll hear about this for the games this week. Who's the better team? I want to take Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's better than Houston. But when I look at the data, it was screaming, Houston's the better team. They were getting points, and they're playing at home. I think I mentioned I wasn't real comfortable about this pick. But this was another one that was not even close. You have to think Pittsburgh offense is just not very good. And you have to think maybe Houston is better than expected. Stroud's playing well. They're scoring points. They've got a defensive head coach. Something brewing in Houston, perhaps. Rams pick them at the Colts. Another game I just looked at it and I was like, hey, who's the better team? The Rams are the better team. They jumped out to a huge lead in this game and almost choked it, gagged it away. Went to overtime, got the job done in overtime. So had to sweat that one out in what looked like was going to be an easy cover. And then last but not least, the Giants on Monday Night Football against the Seattle Seahawks. What am I going to say about this one? Seattle was a better team going into the game. I was trying to take teams that I thought were the better side. I did not in this one, especially in a contest line that had no spread. It was just who's going to win this game. Should have been easy. I completely overestimated the Giants' motivation. They were not the better team at any point in this game. They were scrapping around, and had it not been for the pick 6, it would have been 14-10 had the Giants scored a touchdown in that situation. But can't ever really feel positive or put a positive spin on this one. I said the Jags and the Giants were the 2 most motivated teams in the league last week. The Jags put it out on the field. The Giants absolutely did not. So that was just a bad pick. I could take losing Miami at Buffalo. Thought I had the better team and the points. Happens. Picking the Giants in retrospect is pretty much non-defendable. It's inexplicable. So watch when I put my picks up for this week, you're going to see the Giants again. Hell no. Let's go ahead and take a look at my picks for week 5. Week 5 also starts the quarter 2 mini contest for Circa Million. I just looked it up on my phone, on Twitter, on the Circa Sports account. The winners of the quarter 1 pool, quarter 1 contest, first of all, went 17-3. And there was 2 teams tied, or two entries that were tied at 17-3. And they both cashed in $105,000 in winnings. So it's one of the reasons why we're doing this. It's fun. I get to talk if you watch the other show, the longer one, where I'm going with my buddy in the Westgate Super Contest. I don't know what their mini contests look like right now. Theirs are a little bit longer. I think it's 6 or 8 weeks are their mini contests. But anyway, in Circa, we're entering week 1 of mini contest number 2. Again, the winning record was 17-3. I was 10-10. That's not even close. And so we gotta try to go 5-0 here. So here we go. I am off Jacksonville and I'm on Buffalo this week. Similarly, I think the gap between Jacksonville and Atlanta last week is similar to the gap between Buffalo and Jacksonville this week. Buffalo's better than Jacksonville. They've been, preseason, they're better than Jacksonville, even with all the noise. This season, they've been better than Jacksonville. I think Buffalo might be, I got to watch out because this cost me last week. Buffalo might be the best team in the NFL. I'd have to go Buffalo 1 or 2 and the 49ers 1 or 2. That's just how it is if you look at it so far. Jacksonville's not even close to that tier or that level of football. So the one thing that might make me nervous here is Jacksonville staying in London, playing a back-to-back game in London, and Buffalo having to travel. Is that enough to really make me lean Jacksonville? I just can't. I think there's a gap. I think this number is low. Typically, when I pick a favorite, I think the number is low. So I think Buffalo could be favored by more than 5. I think the summer line on this was 6.5. Is it 6.5 or was it the other way? I'm going to take a quick look at that. Hold on. Let me pull out my sheet. Summer line for this game was Buffalo -3. All right. So yeah, I'm thinking backwards. I'm thinking the other way. So contest line is -5. Has there been 2 points of adjustment with these two teams combined? I think Jacksonville's worse than I expected. Buffalo's probably a little bit better. So 2 points feels right. I don't think Jacksonville's got a shot in this game. Again, the only thing I think that might favor Jacksonville, and I don't know how much it does favor Jacksonville, is the fact that they're playing the second week in a row in London. Whatever that's worth. Game number 2, Houston at Atlanta. I'm just kind of on Houston again. They did me right last week. So this is probably a good time to jump off the Houston bandwagon. But I just don't think Atlanta is that good. So if I go through my statistical analysis, these two teams basically are the same defensively, and I get one team that's significantly better offensively. Plus, they're getting 1.5 points in the contest line. I've got to take Houston. Okay. The big question here is Atlanta that much better at home than they are on the road? We know they're terrible on the road. They've played okay at home. I want to pull up some of my stats, some of the stats that I look at for this game, and it's just kind of ridiculous when I see this. So let me drop in Houston and Atlanta here. All right. This is a metric that I'm starting to look at. The number of possessions that your team has the ball with the lead versus the number of possessions that you have behind. I think that's a pretty good in-game metric of how well your team is playing, comparable to the competition. The Atlanta Falcons have had the lead, so possession of the ball, playing offense with the lead in any of their first 4 games 4 times. 4 possessions the entire season. That ranks 29th in the NFL. Okay, 9.5% of their possessions they have the lead. Meanwhile, Houston's not supposed to be very good, but Houston has had the lead for 18 of their 42 possessions. That's 42.9%. 19th. No, that ranks 12th in the NFL. All right. And when I dig a little bit deeper and I go into Houston and I'm looking for teams that are going to cover spreads, and usually I do this for favorites. I'm starting to look at this for favorites. Do favorites get the lead and do they continue to pile on? Okay. Now, Houston's the dog in this case, although I think they're the better team. So, Houston, when they're ahead, they have had 18 possessions this year with the ball and the lead. 12 times, 67%. 12 out of 18, they've extended the lead. This is a team that can score. Right? They didn't do it at all the first 2 weeks. So all 12 of these possessions have been the last 2 weeks against Jacksonville, who we thought was decent, and against Pittsburgh, who we think has a pretty good defense. I don't think Atlanta's anywhere near as good as Jacksonville, and I don't think Atlanta's defense is anywhere near as good as Pittsburgh's. So I love this spot for Houston. I love the analysis that I have here. I'm going to take Houston again. The public is on them, so there has been a line movement towards Houston. I think a lot of the tickets are on Houston. I think a lot of the money is on Houston. They're still dogs. I think they're the better team. I'm going to roll with Houston again. Game number 3 here, Cincinnati versus Arizona. Now, I thought about this one a little differently. So if I told you before the season started, one of these teams is favored by 3 points, you absolutely would have said the Bengals, and you would have taken the Bengals. Okay, let's throw that out the window. Forget about that. Let's say, based on how the two teams have played this season, right? One of the teams is favored by 3. You would absolutely take Arizona. But they're the dog. So this is a battle of perception, or what you think is true about the Bengals, right? And what we've actually seen about the Cardinals. The Cardinals have been clearly the better team. I think they're a feisty bunch. Again, I do two things to worry about with this pick. One is Cincinnati was dead to rights a couple weeks ago. They had a home Monday night game against the Rams. Again, a motivation spot. Boom. And they popped a little bit. If you can call a 3-point win against the Rams on Monday Night Football popping. This game is not at home. This game is not in Monday Night Football. So the energy is going to be down on this game, in my opinion. The other thing about the Cardinals is their coach coming from Philadelphia. First 3 games against the NFC East, so he was familiar with Washington. He's familiar with Dallas. He's familiar with the Giants. They had prepared for San Francisco in the playoffs last season for the NFC Championship game. So this is the first time we might see a spot where the coach isn't already fairly familiar with the opponent. We'll see if that matters. Don't know. I'm going with Arizona's the better team this year. They're playing at home and they're getting points. Period. The end. Philadelphia at the Los Angeles Rams. Again, who's the better team? This one's actually closer. So if you look at Philly and the Rams in the stats that I like to look at, it's actually you would take the Rams because there's not a big difference between the two teams. The one thing that stands out, and this is where I think the game hinges, is in turnovers. The Eagles force more turnovers. Stafford's thrown 5 picks. You know, the Eagles have turned the ball over 4 times also, but Stafford's thrown 5 picks. If the Eagles are able to generate turnovers, I don't think this game's close. I also like the motivational spot. So if you look at what happened last week, the Rams, big lead, blew it, won in overtime. Cool, we escaped. Versus Philadelphia, division rival, battled against Washington, pulled off a victory. So I don't think Philadelphia played that well. I'd give them a little motivational edge this week. Okay, we didn't play that well. We got away with it. We're going on the road. We're going to LA. This is a spot where we have to prepare better and throttle down. I don't take anything away from Philadelphia last week. Like, you got to remember, Washington beat them last year and smashed them in that game. So Washington might just have a little like magic elixir against the Eagles. And so I'm not going to downgrade the Eagles at all for their performance last week. I think they're better than the Rams. I think this number is short. This number could be, what was the line, summer line on this game? Philadelphia -6.5. So would you downgrade the Eagles or in combination with an upgrade of the Rams for 2.5 points? I think the Rams are about what I thought they would be. The Eagles are about what I thought they would be. I would expect a little pullback because they lost both their coordinators. I think this game could easily be 6 points. And I think, like I said, it boils down to turnovers, and then it boils down to can you score touchdowns? So both teams, let's see, as I'm looking at this right now, both teams have a higher field goal percentage. That means on their scoring drives, more of their scoring drives have been field goals versus touchdowns. So similar in that regard. It's just the Eagles score more often and the Rams turn the ball over more often. I'll take the Eagles. Kansas City at Minnesota. Let's take a look. Kansas City at Minnesota. This is a situation similar to the Eagles-Rams game. This line is just too short. You could make the case for the Philadelphia that 4 is about what it should be. Okay, I can go with that. And then I just take Eagles in this particular spot. I don't think there's any justification at all for Kansas City only being favored by 4. And it's the contest line. When I look at pregame.com right now, the line's actually 3.5. So if you like Minnesota, you would want to take Minnesota +4. If you like Kansas City, you want to take Kansas City -3.5. I don't know why. I'm looking at my drive statistics here. Kansas City scores more often. Their touchdown percentage is lower than Minnesota. So when Minnesota scores, they tend to get touchdowns. But like the other game, and this one is not speculation, there's a gap here. I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to set the record for red zone turnovers. They drive all the way down the field, and then it's a fumble. They drive all the way down the field, and it's an interception. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to continue. But it's continued. They keep turning the ball over. Not just turning the ball over, they turn the ball over after they've already driven all the way down the field. Right? They're averaging more yards per possession than the Chiefs. But they turn the ball over, and that leads them to not scoring. That's a killer. The other thing, and I like this, and I've been consistent on this, is Kansas City's defense. Say what you want last week about the kind of the Zach Wilson comeback, even though they lost. Their defense is better than I thought. They'll be challenged in this game because I think Minnesota can move it, but they don't give up points. Right, I'm looking at the stats here. They've given up 5 touchdowns and 5 field goals. Okay, that's 10 total scores in the first 4 games. The Vikings have given up 10 touchdowns alone, plus 7 field goals, plus their opponents have missed 2 field goals, so it could even be worse. So you're telling me that the Kansas City defense is significantly better than Minnesota's defense. Okay, that's how they've played so far this year. You can't tell me that Minnesota's got an equally better offense to Kansas City's. No, I just don't see that. So while Kansas City tends to not cover spreads, and this spread in the summer was Minnesota +5. So you're telling me there's a point of differential from my preseason notion on these teams. I think Minnesota's worse. I'm not sure Kansas City is worse. I don't know if I'd downgrade Kansas City. And again, this is a spot. Kansas City big lead. Almost gave it up. Mahomes threw a couple picks. He's not going to want to throw any picks in this game. Kansas City already has the better defense. So if if Kansas City plays clean offensively, Minnesota does what they have this season, which is they turn the ball over. Kansas City doesn't give up points and creates a turnover or two. This game won't even be close. So this will be 34-17. And then I guess you have to worry about captain comeback. Is this a backdoor cover spot where with 5 minutes left in the game, Minnesota scores 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions to go and make it a field goal game with an onside kick pending? I think that's a lot to ask. I just think if you sim this game out the way the two teams have played so far this year, the Chiefs are going to win by a margin. So I think 4 points is certainly not enough in this case. Again, you can make an argument in the Eagles-Rams game. 4 points is probably it is in the ballpark. So those are my picks. We're trying to cash in a 5-0. Let's get off to a 5-0 start in the Circa. I don't know what they're calling it. It's mini contest number 2. It's weeks 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or weeks 5, 6, 7, 8. I think the next one starts in week 9. So 17-3 was the benchmark. You can't go 2-3 in week 1 and expect to rattle off, back-to-back 5-0 weeks. So these are the picks. I feel good about all of them. I don't think there are any stretches. So that's probably a bad sign. If I feel good about all of them, we could be looking at 0-5. The good thing about that is in the Circa contest, there's a booby prize. Whoever has the worst record, and I think you can intentionally try to be wrong, whoever has the worst record wins $25,000. So we'll see how this week goes, and maybe we'll angle. Hey, are we going to be good, or are we going to try to be good at being bad? We'll find out. Buffalo, Houston, Arizona, Philly, and Kansas City. Let's do it. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Again, I like to plug the people that I have here on the screen. So Circa Sports, pregame.com, which is my favorite place to listen to sports betting content. And then Winner Circle Proxy. We are in these contests, me and my buddy at Westgate and me in the Circa Million, because we go through Winner Circle's proxy service. You head out to Vegas, you meet with their team of people who's fantastic, sign up for the contest, you submit your picks online. They take care of all the actual official selection and entries on Saturdays. Then you sit back, enjoy the games, and hope you have some winners. So definitely encourage you to take a look at that if you think this stuff is fun, which I do. And so I'm pretty sure we'll be doing it again next year as long as it's legal for us to do so. So thanks for watching. Peace. Enjoy the games. Bye.